Hello, everybody. How are we all doing today? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for today's show? And I hope you all are ready for today's show to begin. But before I get into the 80-second show, I have breaking news that the Dallas Cowboys and Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Fame game will be canceled according to ESPN's Adam Schefter due to coronavirus. It will be scheduled for next year. And also the Hall of Fame ceremony is canceled. That will be pushed off to 2021. And Vince Carter has officially announced his retirement from the NBA after 22 years. On the Wing It podcast, Vince Carter was always a respectable player throughout his NBA career. And I'm surprised it took him this long to retire, but hey, he had a great career. I looked up his numbers this morning, and it wasn't, and I'm like, I was a little surprised where he played so long. It's like, it's not Hall of Fame caliber. He's not going to Hall of Fame. He won't be going to Hall of Fame, but the thing is, here's the thing about him. Vince Carter was just a good player throughout his career. In 60 games this year with Atlanta, 5 points per game, 2.1 rebounds per game, 0.8 assists per game, 0.4 blocks per game, and 0.4 steals per game. And in his career, he had played in 1,541 games, 16.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 3.1 assists per game, 0.6 blocks per game, and 1 steal per game. That's what he averaged throughout his career. And so, congrats to him on his retirement. He's played in the NBA for more years. He's played in the NBA for 22 years compared to when he's not 21. I find that a crazy number. I found that on Twitter, but I guess you got to do something productive throughout your life, I guess. Good for him. At 43 years old, he gets to do whatever he wants. Maybe he'll stay in the NBA. I mean, let's see how it all works out. And before I get into my next topic, this will be the first of 3 times I say this today. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all cash, for deposits up to $1,000 for my bookie. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Play ball! Finally! The MLB, we're finally getting baseball. Finally, we're getting baseball this year. Didn't think we would have it after what the owners and the players couldn't figure out, but I guess give credit to MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred for finally putting his foot on the ground. He finally did it. They're going to be playing 60 games. 40 games are going to be within the division, and the other 20 games will be against, for example, the AL East will play the NL East. So the Yankees will play the Mets, Phillies, Nationals, Braves, and Marlins 4 times each for 4 games. That's simple enough. And every game is going to matter on the weekends. You can't go on a 7-game losing streak. You're done. You're done if you go on a 7-game losing streak. And then on the weekends, you split the first 2 games. Like, who's taking the rubber match? I'm curious how many wins gets into the playoffs. I'm curious. 35? Maybe a little more than that. And I'm going to have a big baseball show here today because that's what I'm going to cover a lot here on this show today is a bunch of baseball. For all you baseball junkies out there that love baseball, whoever's just happy that baseball's back in general. And I think the way we're going to have 60 games this year may be the end of 162 games. Now, I'm not saying we need to have 60 games every year, which I think is downright utterly ridiculous. What I'm saying is, you don't need 162 games. If they want to do it for money and you're afraid you're going to lose money, okay, fine, I get it. But there's no need to play 162 games. You want to play 130 like you start in April like the minor leagues, end by Labor Day. You like play 130 games? Okay. But then yet again, I guess you kind of miss that October feel if you don't play 162. Or maybe you could start the season in May rather than April. I mean, there could be a lot of options on the table. Maybe this is just a temporary thing with the 60 games. I'm just throwing stuff out there. First of all, this is I would just get rid of 162. This 60-game variety is going to present a new emphasis of baseball and how every game matters. And even if you cut 162 to 130, it's going to feel just a little bit matter more in the beginning compared if you have an extra 30, 31, 32, or 33 games. So July 1st, teams are going to be reporting their respective home ballparks to train nonetheless. And then on July 24th, maybe they're going to do we'll see what Manfred decides to do, the 23rd or the 24th, they'll start opening day. In July, on a Thursday or Friday, it's going to begin, and it's going to be most likely without fans nonetheless this year. I don't expect fans to be at the stadiums this season, but I do think fans will be betting a lot this year nonetheless on the World Series. And let me get right into the World Series betting odds. This is one website I found, Action Network, for the World Series betting odds. Let's see. Can you take a guess who the number one odds is for the 2020 World Series? Shocker, I got on the list right over here that I wrote down this morning. The Los Angeles Dodgers at plus 300. Oh yeah, take a guess who's number 2. The New York Yankees at plus 375. Number 3, and I'm kind of a little bit surprised with everything in the offseason they dealt with, but I can understand because of the talent. The Houston Astros at plus 1,000. Not a little bit. I'm not surprised with the talent, but everything around them with the whole cheating scandal, so I'm curious to see how they're going to handle it. Next up, the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals at plus 1,200. So, those are pretty good odds for them. And these odds, I found a little bit surprising. Coming in at plus 1,400, it happens to be the New York Mets. This network is high on the New York Mets to win the World Series, which I find a little surprising because I don't think anyone really, maybe me or a couple other New York Mets folks out there that are thinking that the Mets are actually going to be decent this year. We'll see. Next, Minnesota Twins, plus 1,600. St. Louis Cardinals, plus 2,000. Tampa Bay Rays, plus 2,200. 5 teams sitting at 25,000, Glenn. 2,500. Why'd you write the extra zero? Erase it. It's the Cleveland Indians, the Chicago Cubs, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Los Angeles Angels, and the Cincinnati Reds. That's who comes in at 2,500. So I said Minnesota Twins at plus 1,600. At 1,600. The St. Louis Cardinals at 2,000. The Tampa Bay Rays at 2,200. The Indians, Cubs, Phillies, Angels, and Reds at 2,500. And I'm going to get to you, after I'm done reading this list, who I would maybe bet on, who I would stay away from, and who I would maybe have to think about. Next, the Oakland Athletics. No, it's not 30,000, Glenn. It's 3,000. What's with the extra zeros that you decided to write down this morning? Sheesh. So it's the Oakland Athletics, Milwaukee Brewers, and the Chicago Cubs. Not the Cubs, the White Sox, excuse me, at plus 3,000. Next up, plus 4,000. Boston Red Sox and Arizona Diamondbacks, plus 5,000. San Diego Padres, plus 6,600. Texas Rangers, plus 10,000. Colorado Rockies and Toronto Blue Jays, plus 30,000. Pittsburgh Pirates and San Francisco Giants, plus 50,000. Seattle Mariners and Kansas City Royals, and plus 100,000. Detroit Tigers, Baltimore Orioles, and the Miami Marlins. All right. Where do I start for the betting odds? I'm going to go in order here who I would bet. Back to the Dodgers, of course I would bet the Dodgers. Yankees, of course I would bet the Yankees. Would I bet the Astros? That's the first question mark I would bet. Would I bet Houston? I would not put a bet on Houston. I don't even know if they're going to finish in the top 2 in their own division this year. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm joking? The Athletics are good, and the Angels got a lot better. And I'm not saying the Texas Rangers are going to be world beaters in that division either, but they're going to play pesky every game. So I'd maybe stay away from the Astros. Atlanta Braves and Washington Nationals. Atlanta, I think it's a shot, but do they choke again? The Nationals, it's a shot because of their rotation, but would I not take them because of a World Series hangover? New York Mets, probably not. Only because it's the same old Mets, and the accident waiting to happen every year at, seems like at Citi Field and whatever else, the accident waiting to happen. What can go wrong sometimes does go wrong for the Mets, or will go wrong. It's the Mets. They mess up some way or another. Next, Minnesota Twins. I would take a chance. Just hope that they don't play the Yankees in the playoffs. Their loaded lineup. St. Louis Cardinals. I would not bet the Cardinals. Tampa Bay. Pick your poison on that one. I like their rotation. I don't know if they have the offense. I think they're too analytically driven. Now here's the interesting one at the 2,500. Cleveland, Chicago Cubs, Philadelphia, the Angels, and the Reds. Personally, I think all 5 are worth a risk. All 5 of them are definitely worth a chance. Indians are worth a chance because of their rotation. Cubs are worth a chance because of their offense. Phillies are worth a chance because they have a new manager, Joe Girardi. The Angels have a stacked lineup. And the Cincinnati Reds have a solid front 3-line rotation and a solid offense and a team that's ready to win the corner. And I'll let you know later on this show if I actually think they're actually the favorites in the National League Central. But if you had to ask me if I had to pick 2 teams to bet on, it's the Reds and the Angels in that group. Next, the A's, Brewers, and White Sox. Stay away from the White Sox and the Brewers. I would definitely put my money on the Athletics. That's too low for the A's. I think the A's should be higher. Way higher. I think the A's should be where the Twins are slotted or where the Mets are slotted that I have listed on here. You can't tell me for 1 second that teams like Cincinnati and the Angels and the Phillies and the Cubs and the Indians and the Mets are ahead of them. Or the Rays or the Cardinals, for that matter. A's are definitely better than some of those teams. The Oakland Athletics are definitely better than maybe half of the teams I mentioned. And I'm going to sit here and believe for 1 second that I would not take a bet on the Oakland Athletics. For that price, I would do it. There is no way on this planet that I would not bet on the Oakland A's. Next up. To the back, Boston and Arizona, staying away. San Diego, I stay away. Texas at 6,600, I stay away. Colorado and Toronto. You know what? I am going to say for this, pick your poison, and here's why. There was something interesting that I saw on the MLB Network yesterday with Colorado in their first 60 games last year. Colorado went 37-23. And if Colorado could get a decent enough pitching, I don't think Colorado's making the playoffs. But with guys like Arenado and Trevor Story, I could definitely see them making the playoffs in a short 60-game season. As for Toronto, yeah, Hinyu Ryu they signed. That pitching I still question. You still got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio, and Bo Bichette. Plus 30,000 with Pittsburgh Pirates and the San Francisco Giants. Don't even waste your time on those two frauds. I actually have 50,000 Kansas City Royals and Seattle Mariners. Stay away from Kansas City. But here's another thing about Seattle. And watch Seattle, they will pick the wrong year to have a fast start. Is that the Seattle Mariners have always seemed to get out to these 14-1, 15-1 starts over the last few years. And then you see what happened. They always plummet. And this will be the year that Seattle will actually get off to a slow start if you bet on them. Watch it happen with Seattle. But if Seattle could get off to a fast start, I don't think they're going to collapse this year. I mean, will they? I mean, that's a team that hasn't made the playoffs in such a long time. And of course, I wouldn't pick Seattle to make the playoffs in a 162-game schedule. And I'm not picking them here to make the playoffs either. But if you want one team to bet to maybe make the playoffs, not win the World Series, because of the fast starts they've gotten off to in the past, the Seattle Mariners, I think, is a chance. But you better be careful. Don't blame me if you pick Seattle. It's just a tough luck, I guess. Last but not least, at plus 100,000, Detroit Tigers, Baltimore Orioles, and Miami Marlins. Ladies and gentlemen, just stay away from those teams. It's not even worth your time. You're just better off going on a date with your girlfriend or something rather than betting on those three teams. I mean, really. I'm just going to sit here and pretend that these three teams are actually going to do something? Get out of here. These three teams will be at the trade deadline sellers come the end of August. I mean, at least you'll be able to make trades this year. I was wondering if you weren't going to be able to see any trades at all. And then there's some other interesting things about baseball. Excuse me. After these World Series odds, I happen to write down as a thing on my script, salary cap after the 2021 season. Will there be a salary cap after 2021 season with this collective bargaining agreement? I mean, it's very likely that we see a salary cap, but I guess it's going to depend what happens after next year. I mean, they have to make some changes here in baseball. So, let's see what else is on my agenda. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not going too fast here. Okay. I know what I got to figure out afterwards. After I'm done with the next two topics in baseball before I get into my whole segment of should the Detroit Lions sell their team or not. So this will be the second time before I get into my next thing. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all cash for deposits up to $1,000 for MyBookie. All right, here we go. Before I get into my MLB top 10 teams entering the 2020 regular season, shortened style, let's take a look at Bleachers Reports. Top 10. Before I get into mine, they have number 10, the Oakland Athletics, number 9, the Philadelphia Phillies, number 8, the St. Louis Cardinals, number 7, the Minnesota Twins, number 6, the Washington Nationals, number 5, the Houston Astros, number 4, the Atlanta Braves, number 3, the Tampa Bay Rays, number 2, the New York Yankees, and number 1, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay, here's my top 10, and you already think I'm going to go off a limb. Let's start with number 10. Cincinnati Reds is number 10 on my list. And Bleacher Report has them at number 17. Cincinnati's offense is going to be downright loaded this year. They're loaded offensively. Joey Votto, Mike Moustakas, Nick Castellanos. They had a rookie last year who they called up, and he's going to tear it up in the second year. Eduardo Suarez. I mean, this team has got bats, and you know you had the designated hitter, and this team's even more dangerous. And in this shortened season, I think this is the best three frontline starter in the National League Central. Trevor Bauer, Luis Castillo, and Sonny Gray. For 60 games, this will win you a division. This will win you the National League Central. This is where things hurts for Milwaukee. This is going to hurt the Brewers because they don't got a frontline starter. They got the offense. They don't have a frontline starter or two. They're not going to be able to rely on the bullpen. It's about starter strength this year. And the Cardinals, I think, are a very good team too. I just think Cincinnati may be a little bit better. Maybe St. Louis pulls a step back after losing Marcell Ozuna. Number 9, Cleveland Indians. Another team that is going to benefit from the shortened season. I'm not sure if they're going to make the playoffs because I think the American League is stacked. But they got a loaded pitching staff. Shane Bieber won the American League Cy Young last year. You also got Zach Plesac, Aaron Savale, Mike Clevenger, and Carlos Carrasco all fill out Terry Francona's bunch. Now, can they get an offense? If they get any sort of offense, they may win the division. Number 8, the Tampa Bay Rays. I think this is a heavily driven analytic team, and they're going to use it again to their advantage. No question. Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell will be horses in the rotation with Charlie Morton, but they need more bats to get in the playoffs under manager Kevin Cash, and they will do that just enough. Number 7, the Los Angeles Angels, absolutely loaded lineup. Anthony Rendon, Albert Pujols, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Andrelton Simmons, Justin Upton, and oh wait, add outfielder and prospect Joe Adell to the mix. Now listen to this. I mean, you got what? Trout is the heartbeat and heart soul of the Los Angeles Angels. I mean, come on. This lineup, it all starts with Mike Trout. No questions asked. This Angels team is loaded. If you do not make the playoffs with this lineup, I don't understand. But the thing is, do they get the pitching? And the thing is that Mickey Callaway, the manager for the pitching coach for the Los Angeles Angels, will maybe find a way to fix things like he did with the Cleveland Indians overnight, despite not doing well with the New York Mets 2 years as manager, and Joe Maddon is the new manager, so I think they'll get his message right away. Number 6, Washington Nationals, the defending champions, and they will be relied heavily upon Steven Strasburg, Max Scherzer, and Patrick Corbin in the rotation. Juan Soto is the star in the national capital, and he's also the heartbeat heart soul of the Washington Nationals. And you lose Rendon, that's going to hurt this team. Carter Kieboom, do we know this guy's proven at third base? You still got Trey Turner. I like Trey Turner, lad, shortstop. Trust me on that one. He steals bases, top of the order guy. He's a no-nonsense player. Also, Dave Martinez, his job was questioned last year. And before he turned around, they would have been out of the playoffs if they had a 50-game schedule. Also had a heart issue last year that sidelined him, but he was fine afterwards. And he sparked them to this magical run last year. Let's see if they go back-to-back. Number 5, the Atlanta Braves. This team should be the favorites once again in the National League East this season with Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies. Outfielder and second baseman. And with the way the rosters are going to be constructed this year, there's probably going to be no minor leagues. Here's an interesting question the Braves want to answer. They have 2 outfielding prospects that is potentially ready to make it to the majors in Drew Waters and Christian Pache. Now, do they want to use one of those guys this year? Both of those guys, or do they want to wait till 2021? They'd be in Double-A right now. If we were in a normal life situation, we'd be in baseball, have minor league systems. Waters and Pache would maybe be in Double-A, but they definitely maybe be in Triple-A by now. Be on the verge of being called up, and hey, let's pick up these guys off the waiver wires. So, their manager is really good, but let's see if they can finally get out of the NLDS. Number 4, the Minnesota Twins. This team is stacked on offense. Jose Barreros, I think, is their only ace, but they're going to be fine with Rocco Baldelli in his second season as team manager. Also, maybe not be this season, but next season, shortstop Royce Lewis, the top prospect in all of baseball, may be cracking the lineup for the Minnesota Twins. Right now, it is guys like Josh Donaldson, Max Kepler, Eddie Rosario, Miguel Sano, CJ Cron, and Nelson Cruz. Nonetheless. And the Twins will be the favorites to win the American League Central. And this team won over 100 games last year. Just pray if the Twins make the playoffs, they don't have to face the New York Yankees again. Number 3, the Oakland Athletics. The Oakland Athletics may not have the aces, but they have the cohesion and the culture to win the American League West this season. The shortened season will be just fine to them. The American League West won't be easy to win with Bob Melvin as manager, but the Houston Astros may take a step back this season. Matt Chapman, Chris Davis, Matt Olson, 3 key players. And another underrated player on this roster that no one talked about, Marcus Semien, broke out last year. And they also got a solid catcher duo with Ramon Laureano and Sean Murphy. I mean, you got Chris Davis, the heart and heart soul of the Oakland Athletics, and now the A's. I mean, why are the A's so low in betting, as I mentioned? And let me say this. The Oakland Athletics are a better team than you give them credit for. I mean, they've been in the playoffs the last 2 years. Yeah, they didn't win the division because of the Houston Astros, but maybe this is the year. And then you got at number 2, the New York Yankees. Shocker. At number 2, you got the Yankees will be solid. However, the pitching rotation with Luis Severino and Domingo Germán this season is going to be brutal. Actually, did I say with? I meant with not having Luis Severino, Domingo Germán in the rotation this year. It's going to be downright brutal, I think. If you had Severino, Germán, Paxton, and Garrett Cole as your top 4, I feel more comfortable about the Yankees today. But after Garrett Cole and James Paxton, major drop-off in that rotation. Are you going to be 100%? My brother Jake always talks to me about he's a Yankees fan. So, I mean, like, Yankees fans across the world should be more worried about that with the rotation. You got Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, Gary Sanchez, Luke Voigt, Andujar, and DJ LeMahieu. Aaron Boone has won over 100 games first 2 seasons as the team's manager, nonetheless. Number 1, and this shouldn't surprise anyone, the Los Angeles Dodgers. What a surprise! The Los Angeles Dodgers are number 1 on this list, and large to the lineup being stacked and loaded with guys like Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Justin Turner, and Corey Seager need to prove themselves this year. Also, there are some guys that will be very key contributing in this lineup. You have Will Smith, Gavin Lux, and Max Muncy, I think, will be some key X factors on this team this year. Also, does the rotation with Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler are going to be good this year, or are they going to go in the fold and take a step back? I mean, what do you have after Kershaw and Walker Buehler? And then, afterwards, this is a make it or break it year for manager Dave Roberts to try and win a World Series. And I remember him winning a World Series with the 2004 Boston Red Sox. And the bullpen, led by Kenley Jansen and Ross Stripling, will have to be good, or it could either be shaky, nonetheless, for them if they don't perform. So, before I repeat the top 10, the teams that Bleacher Report did not have in their top 10, this is where Bleacher Report had them. They had the Los Angeles Angels at number 21, which was too low. Cincinnati Reds at number 17. I could kind of understand. I think they should be ranked a little higher. New York Mets at number 13. I can understand that. And the Cleveland Indians at number 12. The Mets and the Indians, I think, are in the right ballpark. Reds and Angels, I think, are a little bit too low, according to Bleacher Report. So last but not least, let me repeat my top 10 before I get into my next MLB segment. Number 10, I had the Cincinnati Reds. Number 9, the Cleveland Indians. Number 8, the Tampa Bay Rays. Number 7, the Los Angeles Angels. Number 6, the Washington Nationals. Number 5, the Atlanta Braves. Number 4, the Minnesota Twins. Number 3, the Oakland Athletics. Number 2, the New York Yankees. And number 1, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I find it interesting that I actually left off the Houston Astros on the list, despite how I think they're talented. Hey, Astros, Phillies, Mets were a couple of teams, Cardinals as well. Those were some of the teams that I consider to be on the list. And the American League's top heavy, it's going to be top heavy with like 7 teams, and everything else is basically what? Going to stink from the S to the K. I don't think Boston's considered to be a top 10 team this year. I don't think so. So next up, this may be the second to last and my last topic for Major League Baseball before I get into another topic. Who's going to make the playoff field this year in 2020? And everyone in baseball wants to know. So I had to do this a few times. So the first time I had a playoff field was when, before the season started, before the coronavirus occurred. The second time I did the playoffs was when they announced they would have maybe 7 teams in each league. Another time I did it was, what if baseball did in an entire league, like Grapefruit League and Cactus League? And now this may be the last time that I do it. And because they couldn't figure out things, and I don't know if they're going to do expanded playoffs. I don't think they're going to. What they're going to do is they're probably just going to have 10 teams in the playoffs this year and next year, and then probably wait till agree to something on the new CBA. So here are the 10 teams that I think are going to be in the playoffs. But also, before I quickly announce the playoff field, in the regular season, I know there will be a runner at second base in extra innings. Oh, I hope they don't do that for the postseason. If you want to make it like in baseball, okay. So you know how in hockey they have the shootouts? It's like, you want to do hockey shootouts in regular season, fine. But you better not have them in the playoffs. Same thing goes with second base. You want the game shorter in the regular season? You want to have a runner at second base? Fine. Although I don't agree with it. You better not have it in the playoffs, though, because that's like having a shootout in hockey. And because of the designated hitter, that means to the phrase, goodbye to the phrase pitchers who rake. And speaking of raking, I remember Chris Broussard on the show on First Things First this morning. I mean, I couldn't find it on Twitter. Maybe I could find it later on the First Things First page or something. It's like Chris Broussard mentioned chicks who dig the long ball. Oh, I was cracking up at that comment. Chicks who dig the long ball. And I couldn't stop laughing about it. Okay, let me get to my more serious side here, and let's get going with the postseason picture. The American League wildcard game. Number 4, Los Angeles Angels over number 5, Tampa Bay Rays. In the National League wildcard game, you have the number 4 Washington Nationals over the 5 seed New York Mets. American League Divisional Series. Number 1 seed Minnesota Twins over number 4 seed Los Angeles Angels. And number 3 seed Oakland Athletics over number 2 seed New York Yankees. National League Divisional Series. Number 1 seed Los Angeles Dodgers over number 4 seed Washington Nationals. And number 2 seed... and number 2 seed Atlanta Braves over number 3 seed Cincinnati Reds. American League Championship Series. Number 3 seed Oakland Athletics over number 1 seed Minnesota Twins. National League Championship Series. Number 1 seed Los Angeles Dodgers over number 2 seed Atlanta Braves. World Series. Number 1 seed Los Angeles Dodgers over number 3 seed Oakland Athletics in 7 games. Boy, I hope this is actually the last time I'm making these predictions. I just need to put this thing set in stone already. I just have to put this thing set in stone. The playoff field in 2020 is going to be something very interesting to keep an eye on. I am excited for baseball season, and so are a lot of other people. So, man, I had a lot of baseball topics. This was crazy. But I'm going to say one more thing about baseball, and I can't believe I actually forgot this, and I just remembered at the top of my head. So, because we have a shortened season, and because who I think is going to make the playoffs, let's now who I think is going to win the awards. Now, I'm probably going to have to think the process through a little bit, but let's start in the American League. Who do I think is going to be the American League Manager of the Year? Joe Maddon of the Angels will be the Manager of the Year in the American League. Most valuable player, it's going to be Mike Trout. It's going to be Mike Trout. Because when the Angels finally make the playoffs this year, there's no way they're going to take that MVP award away from Mike Trout. Not happening. Because maybe it's been I know, here's the thing about baseball. It's not like the NBA and NHL where it's like, oh, you have to give the MVP trophy to a team that made the playoffs. Baseball, it's not like that. Giancarlo Stanton won an MVP with the Miami Marlins, and they didn't make the playoffs. It's happened with Ryan Braun and the Milwaukee Brewers. It's happened with a lot of guys. So, now finally, Mike Trout could get his recognition as the best player in the game as long as he leads his team to the playoffs despite having a stacked lineup. The American League Cy Young winner. Tyler Glasnow, Tampa Bay. That's a little bit bold over the edge. But Tampa Bay's rotation is really good. Tyler Glasnow is popped. And this is what happens when you lead the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. And that's an indictment of how bad the Pirates organization is. That Tyler Glasnow, Garrett Cole have left and have been dominant pitchers. That's what I feel about the Pirates. That's what I think Jameson Time, Mitch Keller should get out of there before their careers get ruined, even though they have new management. But they still have the same owner. As long as you have the same owner, I guess nothing's going to change. And with speaking of ownership, before I get into my National League awards, potentially, that the New York Mets the Wilpons are trying to sell the Mets before the end of the 2020 year. That's a very interesting thing that I just happened to see and read on the fly. And I don't have too much information on it right now with the sound. I've heard all sorts of things. Jennifer Lopez, Alex Rodriguez, and there's some other potential suitors involved. Will Harris is another one of them. Yeah, Will Harris is another one. I'm just curious to see how it's all going to shape up for it when it's all said and done. And let me get to the American League Rookie of the Year. Oh, this is probably a hard one. Now, this award usually doesn't go to a team that makes the playoffs. It just usually goes to the press. Usually to the best playoff, not best playoff performance, just the best player overall. And that's something that I'm not 100% sure about right now. Oh, it's probably going to be someone on the, probably the White Sox, I have to guess, because that's a team that could potentially pop this year. Guy named Luis Robert is one potential candidate for the Rookie of the Year in the American League. Now to the National League. Manager of the Year. David Bell in Cincinnati. Cy Young in the National League. Gonna go Trevor Bauer or Jacob deGrom wins it for a third straight time. MVP this year in the National League. I'm going Juan Soto. The Washington Nationals wins the MVP. This year in the National League. That's who I feel is going to win the Major League Baseball MVP for the National League. And the Rookie of the Year in the National League. I'm going to tell you two names that come to mind. Gavin Lux of the Dodgers. Or it's going to be either Pache or Waters gets caught up for the Braves and they're going to win it. It's going to be one of those guys. That's who I feel is going to win the National League Rookie of the Year. All right. Enough baseball talk. I think I've all tortured you all enough with baseball today. Let me move on to my next segment into the NFL. And it's a very interesting segment that happened to pop on my Twitter on Tuesday. So the Detroit Lions have an ownership change within the family. But should they sell the franchise entirely, though? So on Tuesday, June 23rd, Martha Firestone Ford stepped down as the principal owner of Detroit Lions. No wonder why it's Ford Field for a reason. Sheila Ford Hamp to succeed mother as team's principal owner and chairman. So the Detroit Lions made this statement. The Detroit Lions announced today that Martha Firestone Ford, who has led the Lions since 2014, has decided to step aside from her principal leadership role with the team. Under the team's established plan, Mrs. Ford's daughter, Sheila Ford Hamp, has succeeded her mother as the team's principal owner and chairman. Mrs. Hamp has been active in team leadership and National Football League activities for several years in preparation for officially assuming team leadership. So to me, from this statement, it sounds like they're not going to sell the team anytime soon. It just doesn't seem like it. However, here's an interesting question. And the thing is, you've been preparing yourself your whole life to do something, you finally get your dream job. But could it all vanish in 1 year? Or maybe just 2? Because here's what I find interesting, and I find this ownership change within the family very interesting. Because here's why. Matt Patricia, the head coach, is in a make it or break it year in his third season with Detroit Lions. If they do not make the playoffs, he's probably fired. They haven't been there since 2015, 2016? Also, Matthew Stafford can be an unrestricted free agent in 2022 or 2023 season. However, after this year, the Lions may want to start all over. So now it should be this season, not next season. So, the Lions may want to start all over after this year. And the thing is, they can opt out of his deal. And the cap hit is $19 million. And he's not getting younger. He's 32 years old, and he will be 33 by the end of the year. So if Detroit is bad again this year, and if they want to start all over, they could very well opt out or trade Stafford. And I'm sure that's what the new coaches want. The new coach would probably want his own quarterback. So here are 7 potential candidates that the Lions may want. Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, Justin Fields of Ohio State, Trey Lance of North Dakota State, Dustin Crum of Kent State could be one of the first 4 quarterbacks or top 4 quarterbacks taken in the 2021 NFL Draft. The other 3 quarterbacks that can make a jump is Brock Purdy of Iowa State, Jamie Newman of Georgia, and Tanner Morgan of Minnesota. If Detroit starts all over, if they had to clean house everyone, after just 1 year with her being the new owner, isn't it time for the Ford family to sell the franchise? Knowing, hey, if we're deciding to clean house everything, why do we need to have this franchise? We have not put the product out there. The Lions fan base has been calling them to sell. And Detroit's a mess. Let's leave it as it is. The Detroit Lions, yes, they've had some talent. I know they had it 0-16 over a decade ago with Dan Orlovsky as the quarterback, who's I find a great football analyst on ESPN on shows like Get Up and First Take and other ESPN shows, because Dan Orlovsky does a tremendous job with Louis Riddick and Marcus Spears and Laura Rutledge, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, and Molly Kim and a whole bunch of the other crew on ESPN. But that being said, the Detroit Lions may need new ownership. But I am rooting for Sheila Fortham to be successful. Because you train so hard for something, makes you want to do it right. But at the same time, this family has owned the team for a long time. And maybe they just need ownership change could spark a franchise. Why do you think New York Mets fans are going to be ecstatic when the Wilpons sell? For reasons like this. Because they can't take losing. And that's how Detroit Lions fans feel. And Detroit has been known for a winning culture. I'm not saying that the Lions specifically, but I'm talking about like when the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Pistons were good. That was winning culture in Detroit. And what's happened? I don't think it's been really bad management. I'm not it with the Lions have been bad managed and the Tigers have been bad managed. But the Red Wings and the Pistons aren't usually, but they've been recently. And General Manager Steve Yzerman in Detroit's trying to fix things with the Red Wings. But the Lions have to figure it out quickly. This better be the year that they make the playoffs. Because I'm telling you something right now. The Lions don't make the playoffs. Everything's getting cleaned. And there will be Lions fans petition. I don't know if they've already started to. But for that family to sell the franchise. And I'm sure they probably already have. I don't know what they say on Detroit sports radio. But let me say this. Detroit fans are passionate. Trust me on that one. I believe they are one of the better sports towns in all across America. Detroit deserves better. They deserve winning culture. And they have not gotten it in a long time. It seems like an eternity that they have. The Lions, their biggest mistake was getting rid of Jim Caldwell, their head coach. Didn't understand that one. And you bring in a Bill Belichick disciple, who actually has been horrible. You want to see a Bill Belichick disciple that's creating his own culture and the players are responding to him? That happens to be Brian Flores with the Miami Dolphins. He's a Bill Belichick disciple, but he's establishing his own nice culture in Miami. Matt Patricia is just trying to be a wannabe Bill Belichick, with the, hey, I'm going to do it right now. I got a lead pencil. He puts the lead pencil on his ear, and I actually happen to like to do the lead pencil thing. I just happen to do it just to mock him and Belichick, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a good, cool, stylish feel. But as they say in SpongeBob, and I wonder if they're going to show this episode today, where it's like, Patrick Star, he wants to be as successful as SpongeBob wants to get all the trophies as him. You can't just try and copy him, like dress like him, and copy everything he does. It's like, oh, I touched the stove, I touched this, I wear the exact same clothes, and then SpongeBob catches on to him. Yeah, that's what it seems like is happening with Matt Patricia. And Bill Belichick is catching him like, sorry, nice try. That's what I didn't teach you. So, yeah, I guess I'm trying to be a little bit funny here with my old SpongeBob references and all the other fun stuff that I like to share with you guys here on this show. So, I just try and crack you guys up and have a funny laugh. Excuse me. So, leaving off with that rant, not really a rant, but trying to get my message across with that. Last but not least on today's show for the last 5 minutes or so is the NBA. So, we already have 2 players that will not be going to Orlando, Florida at the Walt Disney Studio Resorts when play resumes on July 30th. And that will be Avery Bradley of the Los Angeles Lakers and Trevor Ariza of, the Portland Trailblazers. So, Avery Bradley is not reporting for one reason and one reason only, and I don't blame him. Family. He's got a 6-year-old son. He's got to take care of him. And he doesn't. And I guess with all the health issues, not he has, but his son has, it's like, not worth it. I got to stay home. And he's actually one of the more important role players on this team. Avery Bradley is one of the more important role players on this team. He comes off the bench sometimes, or he starts. It varies. You're going to have maybe Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from time to time to start. But a guy very interesting that could very well play for the Lakers, who's had a history with LeBron James. Drum roll, please! His name is J.R. Smith. Yes, indeed. J.R. Smith is one of the players that could potentially sign with the Lakers. In 2016, he helped the Cleveland Cavaliers win an NBA title with some clutch threes in the third quarter against, the Golden State Warriors. And then, J.R. Smith also had, when the game was tied with George Hill, after he missed a free throw, J.R. Smith forgot to score. He thought they were up 1, so I could understand why. He brought it out, and LeBron's yelling at him like, you gotta be kidding me. And that was basically the end of the series. And there's a lot of memes about the whole J.R. Smith shenanigans. And then excuse me again. So J.R. Smith, that'll be funny. Will he start? Will he come off the bench? J.R. Smith only played in 10 games last year with Cleveland 2018-2019. He did not play in a game this year. He's good enough to be in the NBA. I don't know why he wasn't signed. I don't know why he wasn't on a team this year. That didn't make sense to me. And then Trevor Ariza just, I guess, doesn't feel like playing for Portland. And there are going to be some key role players that are not playing. Yesterday was June 24th, and that was the day that teams had to report if they were going to Orlando or not. if they were going to Orlando. Well, I guess everyone else is going to be going to Orlando. Buddy Hield tested positive of the Sacramento Kings. Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets also did too, but they're both expected to come back with their team. So is Malcolm Brogdon of the Indiana Pacers. So I'm curious to see how this is all going to last. I heard something that Lou Williams, Chris Broussard was saying that maybe he wasn't going to go to Clippers, but excuse me, again, that I guess all the key role players are going to be coming. So I didn't hear anything else in the meantime. So hey, we're a little bit over a month away from the basketball season restarting. I'm excited. I hope you all are too. So everything is going to hopefully be back to normal in July. Everything's going to start up again. And everything's going to start up again. Let's hope it does on time. Let's hope there's no more outbreaks. Let's hope everything will be under control. I really hope it's all under control with the coronavirus. I really do, because I want to see sports again on live TV. Oh. The NBA is going to be exciting. NFL, MLB, NHL. I wonder, they haven't decided on a hub city yet. They have not decided on a hub city. I know it's down to 6. I said on Monday that Pittsburgh and Columbus were in the running, but they're out. So St. Paul. So is St. Paul and Dallas. St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Dallas. So it's Vancouver, Toronto, Edmonton, and then Los Angeles, Chicago, and Vegas. So I'm curious to see which 2 cities are going to be decided. I'm surprised they have not decided a hub city yet for the playoffs. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am out of time here. Thanks for tuning in to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I'm your host, Glenn Kaplan. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend as well. Nonetheless, I'll be back on the air at the same time on Monday. I'll also go over some potential NBA and NHL topics. I'll also have more about the regards to the 2020 NFL regular season, other NFL topics related to here now, nonetheless. And maybe some more MLB opening day 2020 topics as well, nonetheless. And maybe more merchandise here now, I guess, in the near future, nonetheless. So, use promo code 12OZ Sports, all caps, for deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. See you all later, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.